Hi everybody, it's Marie Plett, Certified Executive Resume Master at aspirationsresume.com, and today I would like to talk to you about blockchain, the newest boogeyman that's out there in disruptive human resources technology. And a lot of people are now saying that blockchain is going to replace the resume. So let's talk about that. Okay, so for those of you who don't know what blockchain is, it's essentially the technology that has restored trust in the financial markets since the recession. It is what makes cryptocurrency like Bitcoin possible. Basically, what it is, it's a decentralized data bank. It enables different users around the world to verify and audit and authenticate financial transactions in near real time. And it's incredibly accurate and you don't have to really audit. If you had to audit all of the transactions ever done through blockchain right now, it would probably only take a matter of minutes because it's already audit as you go. So it's really incredible. To put it another way, so imagine like Wikipedia, and Jennifer Lopez has a Wikipedia page. And a lot of people contribute to Jennifer Lopez's page because they're all huge fans, right? So every time Jennifer Lopez gets engaged or married or divorced or engaged or married or divorced, it's updated. Her page will be updated that day. If she gets arrested, her page will be updated that day. Anything she's done will be cited by somebody contributing to her Wikipedia page. And if there are sources that need citation, Wikipedia will highlight that needs to be cited. They'll have reference pages, and if there are any items that are verified, they'll send you a link to the source. And if there are items that are in contention, they'll let you know. People don't think that J-Lo, gave birth to 6 hamsters, okay? So we're going to check this source for you. So while Wikipedia is not nearly as accurate and up to the minute the way that blockchain is, it kind of works on the same principle. A lot of people verifying and sharing information about a source. So people within human resource departments are definitely going to see more and more of blockchain. Blockchain will surely be used to streamline payroll functions, and it would very well be used for background checks. Anything with finding out if an employee has a criminal history, verifying factual items such as college transactions, transcripts, that will probably in the future be managed through blockchain, and that's really not necessarily a bad thing. I think that would be very beneficial and would cut down on the background check process quite a bit. So here's where things get a little bit sticky. All right, so there are a lot of companies out there right now. For example, Chronobank, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Deloitte. They're working to make blockchain do a whole lot of stuff. They really want it to replace the whole resume process. I know it sounds confusing, but here's what they want. They eventually want to create a giant, overwhelming platform that everybody can sign into that records and rates employee performance all the time. All right, so let's, like, for example, what they often reference is Uber. If you use Uber, you will note that you look at, if you call Uber, you get a cab, you'll see a star rating. And, 5 stars is excellent. Somehow 4.2 stars is terrible. It doesn't really, you have to rank it for 4 stars to 5 stars. I don't know why that is. But if you have an Uber driver that comes up to you with a 4-star rating, that's actually a really low rating, and that Uber driver is probably going to blast some bad music or not know anything about the city you're driving around in. It's going to be a bad experience, and you know this ahead of time because your app already tells you, hey, this is a really bad Uber driver coming to you. And I think at a point, Uber gets rid of the drivers that have really bad rankings over and over. Uber actually has, if you've ever noticed, some people haven't noticed, I've had to tell them about it, is that it ranks you as a passenger as well. Now, my husband and I get very competitive about this and try to beat each other, one-up each other with, our passenger rank. Because if you are a passenger with a 4-point rating, they're never going to pick you up. They're like, oh my gosh, that person's going to swear me out, or they're going to throw up in my cab. They're going to be super drunk. Whatever it is that annoys the Uber driver to give a 4.0 ranking. It's a way to let other drivers know, hey, this person is a problem. Otherwise we want to get try to strive for a perfect 5.0 rating, which is difficult as I have tried. But it is kind of democratized the ride-sharing program. Now, bear in mind, Uber drivers are rated only through Uber, and many Uber drivers also drive Lyfts. But their Uber scores and their Lyft scores can be completely different. In fact, honestly, I don't really use Lyft, so I don't even know if they use the same scoring process. But it would be helpful to make sure, you have the same score rank. What is this driver overall? Okay, so Chronobank and companies of their ilk are trying to come up with a universal platform that says, hey, let's say you're a side hustle person. Let's say you're an Uber driver and you're a sales girl at Kohl's, and then also a bartender at Olive Garden. I don't know, I'm just trying to think of things. And let's say all of your rankings, what customers say about you as a sales girl, as a bartender, as an Uber driver, all are available in a universal block that lets any employer know how well you are with customer service and how you treat people and how maybe neat and clean you keep everything. Anything that these employers might want to know would be accessible and verified, and they know that all these different customers and people thought to rank you. It sounds pretty fair, right? Sounds okay? But then it gets a little weirder if you really think about it. And these are the sort of things that give me these dark mirror nightmares and keep me up awake at night just thinking of all the implications this could have on society and our working environment at large. So right now, a lot of the hubbub I've been hearing lately has been from Chronobank, who is creating a new platform called LaborX that they're hoping will replace the resume process altogether. To do this, they're going to factor in a wide variety of data points for each job seeker. Sorry, I'm reading some of the points that they wanted to make, including verified employment history, educational records, how well they performed all of their various tasks. Now, one of the examples they cite, I'm going to read this, one example they cite is, if you are hiring a graphic designer, wouldn't it be helpful to know they performed reliably and hospitably in their last 20 non-graphic designer resume or design gigs? Of course. Of course. You want to know everything about that person, everything they ever did, and how people felt about their every job and task performed. Sure. Okay, so it's this last bit of constantly tracking, judging employee performance. It's giving me nightmares. All right, so let's really get down to the nitty and gritty and what this would actually mean for most employees. Okay, yes, you wouldn't have to write a resume anymore. That's the advantage. No more resumes for you when it's time to look for a new job. Willy-nilly, the giant machine that is employers will just decide if they like you or not, and boom, shakalaka boom, they'll pick you or they won't. Doesn't that sound fun? And then the entire time, okay, so let's say you're not a side gig, side hustle employee. Let's say you have a 9-to-5 job. Let's say you've worked at an office or a company for 3 to 5 years, Are they going to rate you every 5 minutes? Is that really reliable? It's not a stranger in an Uber cab just judging you among other strangers with objectivity. No, these are people you will work with every day. There is no objectivity. They either like you or they don't. Now, one of the things I find very interesting about this premise in the first place, as it pertains to an employer, an employee versus a client or a customer rating, is that employers, at least in the United States, I cannot speak to other countries, but employers in the United States are very tight-lipped about employee histories. In America, we are very litigious. We're very likely to sue if things don't go our way. We will go after companies and take their money. Happens all the time. And if somebody calls a former employer for a reference and says, hey, how did that person perform their duties? And maybe they're unflattering. Maybe they mean to say, be very nice, but they say just the wrong thing that the former employee can prove is incorrect. They can take you to court. They can sue you. So most companies have an HR policy that if some future potential employer calls in and asks for a reference, they'll usually just give dates and job titles, and a lot of times they won't even tell you if that person quit or was fired. We even have different laws in different states that kind of rein in some of that stuff sometimes. You got to be very, very careful. But and it's not even something that's a federal law, just most employers know to keep their mouths shut and just say, okay, yes, this person was our sales manager from 2006 to 2008. They don't go into the great details of how well they performed every task. So to do this blockchain as they're envisioning it means that if you're not talking about a client relationship, and clients can rate you on Google, they can rate you on all sorts of different ways anymore. So anybody who works in a client-facing industry already has some sort of rating system, usually on some level, if they're, depending. But can get that. They can get those scores if they needed to, But if you are an employee in a company within a corporation, that relies on two things for the blockchain to work. One is that you are constantly being reviewed for your performance for the sake of not having to need a resume. And two, that you are comfortable, that everybody's fine with being very open and transparent of how well you did every task without being sued or having to go to court or litigate things that somebody might perceive as incorrect or slanderous or damaging. I'll also say this, in the companies I've worked for, and I hear it a lot from employers and HR professionals, a lot of times the performance management section of a company or a job isn't taken as seriously as it perhaps should be. A lot of companies sort of treat performance management as, oh, it's very important. We put a lot of effort and thought into these performance evaluations. And then it's just like, oh my gosh, they're due in 2 days. Okay, everybody, let's get our acts together and just churn out some sort of evaluation to meet the deadline and make it look like we put some real thought into it, but we're just going to rush it because we have work to do. We're busy working and performing a task rather than discussing how well you performed a task. But we got to do this in order to justify how much of a raise we are or will not give you this year. So it's very important to do the performance evaluations, but performance evaluations I've found, and please tell me your experience, have been deprioritized over the years. So this would change that so that it's a top priority. And unlike blockchain right now, that's judging financial transactions and can audit them and ensure correctness and accuracy, if you're, let's say you are administrative assistant, let's say you're an executive assistant. Let's say you've been helping out the same CEO for the last 3-4 years. Well, in order for blockchain to work, that CEO would have to take the time out of his busy schedule to comment about everything you did, rank everything you did, say, oh my gosh, she got this project done on time, she finished this, and she was very cool at the reception, she greeted this, she put together this meeting, it was wonderful, blah 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 blah, talk about all my achievements. But then other people would have to verify that. I would think for the sake of authentication, you'd really need at least a couple people to verify that. So then everybody has to comment about what I did and how well I did it. Which means that people would expect you to comment on everybody else's in duplicate, triplicate, and everybody else you have contact with. Imagine how much work that is. That sounds exhausting for it to be accurate. The other thing I think it's worth mentioning is it would take a long time for blockchain to be useful, right? Think about, obviously most of us haven't used it, most of us haven't entered into a database. So to get enough information that would be workable would take a long time. And of course, people who are self-employed, who've been business owners for a long time, no one's rating them. And would it work that way? Would you be able to rate your boss too? I assume so. Would they ever use blockchain to do something that benefits employees and not just employers? Because I get why HR people and companies would like this. They know what they're getting before they hire them. But will employees know what they're getting? Will blockchain be used to make salaries a lot more transparent so that, pay raises are more competitive? Will that be the case, or will it always just be another technology that benefits employers? So I'd love to hear from you. How do you feel about the possibility of you constantly being rated in the workplace? I'd love to hear from gainfully employed full-time people. If this sounds like something you'd love to try, please let me know. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear from human resources people if you think that this would really be a better alternative to resume writing. And I'd love to hear from resume writers too. Do you think if a system like this existed and could actually happen, then what are we? Do we end up becoming more like, because right now I mostly write beautiful documents for high achieving executives who just need me to organize all their accomplishments. Well, what if my job then becomes spinning the bad habits of poorly ranked employees to explain why their performance has been so crummy in the past and how they plan on fixing it or making it much better in the future? Maybe that's the future of resume writing, or maybe blockchain is just a silly concept that can't possibly be applied to actual human beings and personalities and performance and is best suited for financial transactions. I don't know, but please weigh in. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for your time today.